Our personal views shape our internal opinions and help us differ from the rest of society. We hold our own beliefs and, based on certain subjects, deny to change our opinion. Humans are social creatures who are interested and drawn in knowing what the rest of the world is doing. Although our opinions can be altered based on what majority of the world believes. Both personal views and worldviews function side by side. They each balance each other out, but also create an impact within. Individualism constructs our personal views, opinions, and make us unique. However, worldviews take part in altering our perspectives, thus shaping our identity. 5 great examples revolve around this theme. The book Brave New World by Aldous Huxley portrays a futuristic society where the human race thrives by eliminating freedom and individuality. Their government, named the world state, suggests and imposes to the people of this society that everyone belongs to everyone else. Emotions are cut off, which forbids humans to ever act on their ambitions and their own opinions. Everything they do is what the world state programmed upon them. No one has their own identity. However, each character holds a different perspective about the laws they have to abide. Some respect that they hold no individuality, while others lash out and wish for their own freedom. It states, if one's different, one's bound to be lonely. Sayings like these were utilized to promote fear to their people. The world state wants to impose that being different and being your own person is threatening and comes along with bad consequences. Specific characters like John the Savage only wish to take his personal aspects and worldviews and integrate them to his life. Malcolm Gladwell, author of The Tipping Point, focuses on a psychological aspect of situations. The novel discusses how ideas are spread like epidemics, where few elements need to come together in order to create a viral effect. More specifically, Gladwell describes that in New York, when graffiti was taken off the subways, it turned New Yorkers into better citizens. This ties back to the quote, "We are powerfully influenced by our surroundings, our immediate context, and the personalities of those around us." Their surroundings altered their worldview, which overall changed them as people individually. The world around us developed our perceptions. Why I Wrote the Crucible by Arthur Miller dives into an explanation of various reasons regarding why he wrote the book. This novel explains the story about the Salem witch trials that occurred in the 17th century. During the time period when the book was actually written, communism had just begun to spread. The Cold War had the nation on edge, which led to fear and panic escalating. The Crucible conveyed both of these factors. Miller goes on to say, "The Crucible was an act of desperation. Much of my desperation branched out, I suppose, from a typical Depression era trauma. The blows struck on the mind by the rise of European fascism and the brutal anti-Semitism it had brought to power." Miller's views were altered by what was occurring in society, and he decided to speak out about it through the Crucible. It reached to a point where holding privacy towards your personal views meant you were a threat to the country. The idealistic worldview was to value a democratic system and forbid communism. This restricted holding personal views and individualism. The Great Gatsby movies, produced in 1974 and 2013, are set during the most thriving era, the 20s. In the 1920s, the concept of the American dream was what everyone wished to achieve. People were taking great measures in order to acquire any kind of wealth and pertain to a higher class. Worldviews influenced the population to believe that power was something necessary to a person's identity. Instead of acting on their own opinions, they would conform to the standards of society. A great example would be when Daisy is explaining to Nick the day her daughter was born.
And everything.
Pammy. Oh, yes. Listen, Nick. When she was born, Tom was God knows where. God knows who. And I asked the nurse if it was a boy or a girl. And she said it was a girl. And I wept. I'm glad it's a girl. And I hope she'll be a fool. That's the best thing a girl in this world can be. A beautiful little fool.
This specific scene holds great significance because it demonstrates society's standards of beauty in this era. Personal views and opinions were not really taken into account. All that mattered was how much money you had and if you blended in with societal views. The poem Harlem, written by Langston Hughes in 1951, also ties into the ideology of the American dream. This poem takes a different stanza and tries to show to the readers the limitations African Americans had during the 1950s. This made it hard for them to be able to accomplish their goals. During this time period, African Americans were forced to believe that they had to follow the guidelines the world had given them, to believe that they did not deserve the same amount as everyone else. The poem states, "What happens to a dream deferred?" Hughes does not refer to a specific dream. He is in fact suggesting that African Americans cannot dream or aspire to great things because of the environment that surrounds them. People like Hughes spoke out to make it known that their personal opinions matter. Worldviews had altered African Americans to not lash out at these stereotypes, but Hughes had had enough and wanted African Americans to have the same opportunities and to be able to express their individuality. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley depicts what it is like to live under a government where you are controlled. Everyone is part of a single body cell of a society and we're brainwashed to get to this point. Characters like John strive to find individualism for everyone else but simply die trying. The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell illustrates how people improve themselves in the way they see the world just by making it a better place. This also includes the people they surround themselves with and the context. This all constructs their personal views and worldviews. Why I Wrote the Crucible by Arthur Miller works to show how fear and panic limit the will to choose something. Worldviews strand personal views. The Great Gatsby movies are perfect examples of how power eliminates individualism. All the characters in this story become so focused on chasing one thing in life that they forget who they are as people. Finally, Harlem by Langston Hughes only wishes to promote individuality among his race. During this time, the world had branded African Americans with inequality, and due to this belief, they chose that their personal or world views did not matter. Overall, individualism goes hand in hand with world perspectives. Each affect the other and shape us as people.